Here with me today, I have a real expert in this subject. His name is Giorgio Manzio. Ciao Giorgio.
Fulvia, carissima, how are you? Ciao.
Good.
Ciao.
How are
Thank
you today?
Thank you for having me here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. So, he's the expert, and please tell our viewers a little bit of your background, the history. How did you come to be the expert in wine?
Well, let's begin with what the word sommelier means, which is very important. A sommelier is basically, back in the 19th centuries, was called sommeliere di bocca e di corte, and then unfortunately the French stole the term and they call it sommelier. Sommelier is basically the wine expert. It's what the person who really knows, who's very much involved into wines, and not only into drinking them, but most of all into the making, into the wine making. So I started at very young age. I was 5 years old. Imagine that, when my nonno Giorgio, whom I was named after, he gave me the first glass of wine, first glass of Nero d'Avola. We're going back 35, 40 years ago. And it was a wonderful experience. I remember when the harvesting was due at the time, which was on September. And nowadays, Fulvia, they use the machineries. But back in the old days, me along with my family, we used to do the old-fashioned way. And you know what it is, the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, your feet.
Barefoot. Make sure you wash your feet.
That's right.
So barefoot, the pressing was done barefoot, and it was a wonderful experience. And we had some people playing some musical instrument. It was really nice. And since then, I've always wanted to be into wines. And at age 18, I had my first sommelier degree. By attending a local school in Syracuse in Italy. And at that point I decided to cover wine 360 degrees.
So you are Sicilian?
Sicilian.
Oh,
Sicilian.
Sicilian.
So I left my beautiful island, started traveling, and I went to London, I went to Spain, France, and then finally I went to work for the Princess Cruise Line, which was my dream, and I was working as a sommelier on board of the BQE, they call it. And at age 25, I landed in New York City, where I now advise a lot of winemakers, and I do a lot of wine seminars. And of course, I want to mention also my 3 books, which they are all about wines, all about grapes, and all about wines.
So much more to know about Prosecco. There is unbelievable, but unfortunately we are running a little bit out of time for today, but we will come back with this because it really is worth it. And in the meantime, before you go, I want to know a little bit about the food that I see on this table. It is the food exactly that goes with the Prosecco?
It's very important because remember, it's not just drinking, but it's also, and most of all, it's eating. So pairing food with wine, it's a task that requires sometimes an expert, but I'm here to teach you the techniques, some tricks on how to pair some food with wine, or vice versa. It's a very simple trick.
Make it easy for us.
And very easy. When you pair some food with wine, you can do either by contrast or by analogy. Now, I do not suggest you to do it by contrast because it's very difficult, as well as for myself, because you have to find what's missing on a particular dish in order to complement it with the wine that you're pairing with.
Right.
Vice versa, if you're going by analogy, you can find any analogies when you pair a food or wine together. Let's say you can use the color of the wine. Let's say, light color dish, light color wine. Dark color dish, dark color wine. Wow. So this is one analogy that you can use.
That's great.
Another analogy that you can use. That's what I'm saying. Very simple. Supposing you're home, you have some guests. That's the way how you pair some. That's why usually they pair fish with white wine and meat, because they go by color. Exactly. Another way, it's for instance the region where the food or the wine comes from. So if I'm, in this case, for instance, we're doing Prosecco, which comes from Veneto, from Venezia, where you pair, it's a local dish.
Right.
So you go by, local wine, local dish.
Right.
One more thing is you can use the structure of the dish. For instance, if you have a delicate dish, you can pair some delicate wine. In this case, we have a very delicate wine and very delicate fishes. Prosecco, again, it's a delicate wine. And what better than some nice fried shrimp or maybe some sauté baby octopus.
George, and before we go, I want to remind you that next time we're going to talk about Piemonte.
Next region is going to be Piemonte.
Piemonte, which wine is going to be?
We're going to talk about Piemonte. We're going to talk about Nebbiolo grape.
Nebbiolo grape.
Yes. I'm going to take you from Venice. I'm going to drive you all the way from Venice to Piemonte. And we talk about Barolo wine, Barbaresco wine, Nebbiolo grape. There's so much to learn about it.
Can't wait. So I see you then. And un ultimo brindisi.
Facciamo l'ultimo brindisi
a voi
all'Italia.
telespettatori, all'Italia e al nostro delizioso vino.
Prosecco, salute, ciao.
You are watching Mondo Italiano TV. Mondo Italiano television broadcasting at the service of the Italian and the Italian-American communities and of those TV viewers who appreciate the Italian language and culture.